This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is
the one that everybody wants, me.
It's going to WrestleMania. Claymore!
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. This is my iron. You're going to acknowledge me.
Okay, guys, welcome to the current state of WWE. As always, every week, Anthony DeMarco joins us to discuss the current state of WWE, and we usually focus on a specific topic, and that's not going to be any different today, as we are going to focus specifically on the WrestleMania main event / main events, depending on how you look at it, and all of the different possibilities that are really just mind-bending in terms of who could be there, who is not going to be there. There's The Rock, is Sami Zayn. What about Bray Wyatt? It was Seth Rollins, Cody. I mean, there's so many different possibilities. But here to break it down, as we do every week, Anthony DeMarco joins us to talk WrestleMania main event. How you doing, buddy?
Not too bad, my man. And, you know, it feels like with each passing week as we get closer to the Royal Rumble and also closer to WrestleMania, that it's less and less clear as to where we're headed for the main event of WrestleMania. I feel like if you rewound 12 months ago, we all knew that Vince McMahon was trying to pigeonhole us into Brock versus Roman Reigns for like the 14th time. But this time, you know, obviously the low-hanging fruit is The Rock, and also low-hanging fruit is Cody Rhodes. But neither of them are really part of the program right now. I'm sure that we're going to see Cody Rhodes return, as you really laid it out there on your review show, for the weekend review, I should say, that they're really laying it on thick. The Rock obviously is nowhere to be seen. And then you get Seth Rollins, who's saying that he wants to be in the main event of WrestleMania, but he hasn't crossed paths with Roman Reigns in 12 months. And then you look at what's going on SmackDown, and I can't help but wonder that, like, if you went from a pure programming perspective, is Sami Zayn not, like, the favorite if you just look strictly at who they've kind of pushed over the last few months to challenge Roman Reigns at WrestleMania?
Right now, Sami Zayn, if we focus specifically on him, it's difficult with so many spiderweb possibilities, but Sami Zayn specifically, there's no doubt he is one of the top baby faces in WWE, and totally by accident. I don't think this was by design a year ago. This is completely by accident. They stumbled into this, and it's a great mistake to have. This is a great time for Sami Zayn. He's a baby face in a heel group, and there is absolutely a case to be made that Sami Zayn should be in the main event of WrestleMania facing Roman Reigns. You could make that case. He has earned it. He has been here long enough. The fans organically connect with him, and the storyline would warrant it. Absolutely. Of course, The Rock, again, this is assuming The Rock is not here. We all don't know if that's going to happen. We will know likely in a few weeks. But, you know, when you look at this, I look at the pay-per-view card as we move towards WrestleMania, and there is the Elimination Chamber, and guess where it is? It's in Montreal. And guess where the former hometown of Sami Zayn is? Montreal. Like, so Sami Zayn facing Roman Reigns, maybe at the Elimination Chamber, in the chamber, separate match, whatever it is, that also could be where they have the blow-off for Sami and Roman Reigns, if they don't want to do it at WrestleMania. Could you see it in Sami's former hometown, in the main event of the Elimination Chamber, having it Sami versus Roman there, and then getting to The Rock or somebody else at WrestleMania?
In my hometown as well. So I have a vested interest in that. But obviously something major is going to happen. I'm wondering if they don't do the split in Montreal, where Sami Zayn finally turns babyface. And look, I still think that the biggest X factor in all this is The Rock, because if The Rock gives Triple H and creative the green light, I can't imagine that they're going to go away from that opportunity. I think it's something that you almost have to do, even if you maybe rather do Sami Zayn or Cody Rhodes. But certainly something huge is going to happen in Montreal. I don't think that it's complete coincidence that they decided to book Montreal for the Elimination Chamber. What was it, back in November, October? And we were well into the Sami Zayn Bloodline storyline at that point. So I refuse to believe that's just coincidence, especially when you consider the fact that they haven't had a pay-per-view in Montreal since 2009. I don't know if you remember, it was Breaking Point. So,
oh, wow. Talk about a pay-per-view,
versus Legacy. Yeah. So, I mean, I think that they're planning something big. And the other big part about this is, and something that would make this whole like hullabaloo a lot easier, is if they split the championships. Because I feel as though that Raw has a lot of guys that they're pushing to be in the main event of WrestleMania, specifically Seth Rollins and Cody Rhodes. And I just can't imagine that all these guys are going to be involved with Roman Reigns. So I don't know what exactly is going to happen between now and WrestleMania, but I feel like they're just positioning everything and they're placing all their chess pieces around the board to split the championships and get one over to Monday Night Raw. And I don't know if it happens at the Rumble, as KO is a Raw guy technically. So maybe he wins, and then kind of some suggestion that you made where Paul Heyman says in the contract it was only for one championship because Kevin Owens is a Raw guy and therefore can't, whatever the hell, whatever explanation you want to come up with, and you get Kevin Owens to transport that championship over to Monday Night Raw, and then all of a sudden it's at the disposal of the likes of Seth Rollins and Cody Rhodes, and then you concentrate on Sami Zayn and the Universal Championship, and or depending on what happens with The Rock, you have that avenue opened up. Could you see something like that?
Yeah, I've heard about that more and more floating around the rumor mill that we all know, all the sites that we know, and I saw that possibility, and I don't hate it. I mean, you and I have been fans and been talking about splitting the championship since it essentially happened at last year's WrestleMania, and Roman was nowhere to be found, and then we realized what kind of champion he was going to be on TV, which is essentially an absentee champion on both brands, and really being the worst possible scenario it could be, where there's no champion on either show, especially Raw. That said, yes, I would be a big fan of that, because you would put a top belt back on Raw, and you know, I know they're doing a great job with the US belt, but that's only going to take them so far before the fans are going like, okay, like, great job reestablishing, reinventing, rebirthing this belt, nice, but now let's get to the real belt that's not here. I mean, they're trying to really deodorize their choice of not putting a top belt on Raw, and I get it, they're doing the best they can, but yeah, if you're going to put a top belt on Raw, have Seth and Cody challenge for it, I mean, I wouldn't hate that. I wouldn't hate Cody Rhodes versus Seth Rollins versus or rather just them versus each other in one main event. And then in the SmackDown section, you have the Universal with Roman versus The Rock. Now, if The Rock is not involved, and again, that's the one thing, like, if I could ask Triple H anything, I mean, only one question about WrestleMania, it would be, is The Rock going to be there or not? Because if he is, it's a totally different looking WrestleMania than if he's not. It's not like a guy that's there every week. You can kind of slide in, slide out. The Rock is an anomaly. Is he going to be there or not? It totally transforms WrestleMania for me at WrestleMania if he is there or if he's not. So, the possibilities are just mind-numbing as to how it could go if he's not there. Because if he is, obviously it's Roman Rock for the Universal Championship on SmackDown. And Roman doesn't have to do double duty, as many people have alluded to, where he's facing Cody on night one and The Rock on night two. I would argue that that's a better solution to not have Roman do double duty, because then there's the excuse, well, The Rock, or that if The Rock loses, he lost to a guy that had a match the night before. It makes The Rock look even weaker. There's just a lot of weirdness that could happen if there's Roman on two nights main eventing two times. And I would argue that Rock and Roman is the true main event of WrestleMania. We all know that The Rock is probably going to lose, and he should lose. I mean, that's the thing that's hilarious about this whole thing is, even though The Rock, a lot of people want him to come back, I do and you do too, because it's a match that should have happened 3 years ago. It's that we all know if he's coming back, he's just going to be looking up at the lights 1, 2, 3, and Roman continues his streak to 1,000 days. That's the hilarious part is, even past WrestleMania, I actually don't think that Roman Reigns, if he splits the belt, he's stripped of it. See, Adam Pearce makes some kind of stipulation, whatever, he pisses off Adam Pearce or the board of directors or whatever, and they strip him of the belt and they have him just defend the one. Well, then he's going to continue his streak, and the streak stays alive, and we're already talking past WrestleMania with Roman as champion.
Yeah, and here's the thing is that they could have their cake and eat it too here. And that's the kind of the crazy part that they're resisting. And I know that Triple H couldn't come in and undo everything that Vince McMahon has done, especially now that Vince McMahon is back in the fold. And it's been revealed that he does communicate with Triple H and give suggestions. But even let's take Vince McMahon being back for a second. I don't think that Triple H could come in and just start undoing everything, like splitting the championships back at Clash of the Castle with Drew McIntyre, which probably would have been the best course of action if we're being honest, because they would have been able to start building something else. But hey, he started plunge ahead with what Vince had started. That's okay. But now that you're getting to WrestleMania season, and for the most part, aside from anyone to do with the bloodline, because if you are in the bloodline or involved in a program with them, you don't have to abide by the brand split rules. But aside from that, they have done pretty well in keeping everyone on their respective brands. Anybody not to do with the bloodline or against the bloodline has been pretty good at staying on their own brands. But in doing that, you've had Raw with no world champion, and you've had guys talk about being in the main event. You've had Seth Rollins proclaim that he's coming after the world title. Now you have the return of Bobby Lashley. You have the impending return of Cody Rhodes. You have Seth Rollins on top of the world. You have Kevin Owens back in a big part of relevancy in the landscape of WWE. No pun intended, as he's involved with the bloodline and the island of relevancy. But once he's done with the bloodline and Kevin Owens goes back to Raw, you can't just have him fight, I don't know, Elias again for 2-3 months. You can't just have Bobby Lashley have this mega return and just go after the United States Championship. You can't have Seth Rollins talking about how he wants to be in the main event and he wants the world title for the first time in 3 years, but have no option to go at. I just feel like it's the stars are aligning here for them to get a world title back on Monday Night Raw, and they have to before WrestleMania. And like you said, you don't want Roman competing on 2 nights, because then what? It's going to feel like one main event is playing second fiddle to the other one. Like Roman Reigns' match against, let's just say, Cody Rhodes isn't feeling as important against his match against The Rock, or vice versa. I just really think that they have an opportunity here, especially with the fact that Kevin Owens is technically a Raw superstar. The fact that he's a Raw superstar, in my mind, gives them a perfect golden opportunity to have Paul Heyman say, per the contract, he can only take 1 championship. And then through that loss at the Royal Rumble, you could get to the further dissolution of Sami Zayn's relationship with the bloodline, maybe towards Elimination Chamber.
Mm-hmm. See, the everything you laid out, I cannot disagree with, because there's so many things that make sense to happen, and it's almost like they have too many options, whereas in many years past, you could kind of see the writing on the wall from a mile away, especially with Vince in charge. Oh, he's going to want this and this. Let's just get to it. How many years, sadly, have we got to the WrestleMania main event and said, can we just get to it because we know who's going to win this? We know who's in it and who's going to win. I mean, sadly, that has been the case for many WrestleMania main events over the last specifically 5 years. And not that the matches haven't been good. I mean, I remember the triple threat with Daniel Bryan, Edge, and Roman Reigns. Now, we all had an idea that Roman was going to win that, but we got to it, and I thought it was really good. The Brock and Roman one last year, not so great. It might have actually been one of their least inspiring matches that they've had in their series of matches. I think the best might have been the last one with SummerSlam, but this year there are so many, and the whole story you laid out, who can dispute that? I mean, we are sitting here so blind to what the creative team has on their desk and at their production meetings and all that. It's really difficult here to project forward what could happen. And I like your idea. I think that certainly Kevin Owens has been elevated, no doubt about it. He's at the level where he should have been most of his career. And I don't think that if Triple H is in charge of creative for the time being anyway, that he goes back to facing Ezekiel or something, right? Like, I mean, I would imagine that, yeah, he's going to stay in the semi-main event, at least competing for a top championship, U.S. belt, or in the title picture here and there. I don't believe that there's really any chance that Kevin Owens beats Roman Reigns at Royal Rumble. Like, there might be, like, I mean, if there could be a negative chance, that's what Kevin Owens sadly would have. I mean, I really wouldn't give him any chance at all. We are way too close to WrestleMania, way too close to that 1,000 days. There's just no chance. Any Kevin Owens fans out there, I'm sorry. He'll put on a hell of a match with Roman. There'll be some really fun hope spots where even I will believe that, oh my God, wait a minute, I could be wrong. And I hope those moments happen. That's what I look for now. But I just think there's a negative chance of Kevin Owens winning because of the fact there's just too much with Roman getting into WrestleMania and the match with The Rock, and all that. I will say, if we get past Royal Rumble, let me ask you this. If we get past Royal Rumble and the lights go off, Roman is holding up his championship, as we have said for thousands of pay-per-views, it feels like, thousands of moments like this, with Roman holding up the belt, the fireworks are going off, the belts, I should say, and there's no Rock. Will you be a little bit more inclined to say maybe it's not happening if we get past Rumble and there's no Dwayne Johnson?
I think so, because history would tell us that you start building towards the main event of WrestleMania at the Royal Rumble. And we saw it last year when you had Brock get interfered with in his match against when Roman Reigns got involved, and then he subsequently wins the Royal Rumble. Even when The Rock was, part of WWE on kind of a part-time basis back in 2012 and 2013, he would always return for the Rumble. He beat CM Punk at the Rumble in 2013. So I just think that even The Rock, I don't think if he's coming back, he's going to want to do this half-ass. I think he's going to want to do this properly. And him showing up a handful of weeks before WrestleMania, leapfrogging everyone to get to the top of the line or at the front of the line to challenge Roman Reigns, I don't think that that's something that they would want to do, or probably The Rock would even want to do. But just to spin back to the Kevin Owens thing, you don't think there's any chance that he walks away with one championship at the Royal Rumble?
No. Okay, well, now that's a different scenario. Okay, assuming that this match is for both, I think there's zero chance. Okay, that was under the pretense that it was for the quote unquote unified belt, even though there's two physical belts. It's one championship on paper. To me, that's a negative chance. Now, if he wins and then there's some kind of, Paul Heyman schmoozing of the legal, part of this, the contract. I spoke with the legal team. On the contract, it only said the WWE, the WWE championship. Then sure, if they're going that road, then I'm all for it. The only other thing is, do they want to end Roman Reigns' undefeated streak of being pinned since 2019? There's also that. I know the 1,000 days is one streak. The undisputed streak of him being pinned since December of 2019 is still alive. They're getting into rarefied air here, where whoever ends this need to have a hell of a plan moving forward. Now, I would be for it. Sign me up if that gets one belt off of him. I actually don't care really how or however bad the creative is. I'll give them a pass on anything at all to get one belt back to Raw. I don't care. Just let it go. And I would sign up for that, yes. But if it is truly for the unified belt, no, there's no chance Kevin Owens wins this.
Oh, yeah. There's no way. I think at this point, there's no way that Roman Reigns, at the bare minimum, WrestleMania, but more probable is him reaching the 1,000-day mark. I don't think he's dropping the Universal until then. But I just, do you think that, if I put a gun to your head right now, in a very morbid way, and I'm sorry for using that example, but if I put a gun to your head right now and I said, will both championships still be on Roman Reigns by the time we get to WrestleMania, what would you say?
No. And I don't say that very confidently. It's just the fact of the image of the gun to my head. But if I had to make a decision, I would say no, but it's 51-49. It's a very slight edge towards no, because I think Triple H recognizes the frustration. You're also really, I think you're doing a disservice to not just the fans for a second true main event with the top belt, but you're also doing a disservice to the men who are eligible for this, who deserve it, that are not going to get it if Dwayne Johnson's in one, and all the guys who have been here for years don't get another opportunity again, where last year was Brock Lesnar. So they're coming in bringing legacy stars in, and they're fun and they're big, and they're transcendent stars, but you're also really bringing down morale, I believe, backstage with these guys that want to compete at WrestleMania for a top championship. So I think that it's the smart thing to do. You keep Roman out of it, have him just, for whatever, there's some kind of major announcement, the board of directors has voted, all that. Then that way Roman doesn't have to take a loss. Again, if this is not the Kevin Owens method, if they just want to preserve the winning streak of Roman and not make him have any weakness, never took a pinfall to get the belt off of him, have a board of directors major announcement on 30th edition of Raw or something, or we didn't even talk about 30th edition of Raw. That's coming in 2 weeks, or 1 week. So they, to me, could do it that way, and that's the way I would do it, where there's been some kind of snafu in the contract with Brock Lesnar, I don't know, something, and get it off Roman, bring it back to Raw, then you can focus solely on the Universal Championship and have The Rock versus Roman, and on the other side you have two guys, or multiple guys, be able to compete for a top championship in the main event of WrestleMania.
So you would try and do it in a way that doesn't involve him being pinned. That's what you think.
That's what I would do, because then you can preserve and continually say it's been 3+ years since he's been even pinned. That will continue, and it'll keep Roman out of the decision. It's not in his hands. It wasn't his call. That kind of thing. Yeah, that's how I would do it.
It's crazy. I remember being so upset when they booked the match of champion versus champion, winner take all, Brock versus Roman, because I knew Roman was going to win, and I hate very predictable outcomes at WrestleManias. But then, when they did it, I said, okay, they're trying to push Roman as like this mega champion, historic run, all that. So I'll give it a chance. And you know what? In a lot of ways, I think it's been a success, because I think Roman has just been brilliant over this run. Obviously, I think it was going through a bit of a lull, but Sami Zayn's involvement has really rebirthed that entire storyline. But at the same time, I'm just thinking to myself, was his historic run, or is his historic run, which it is, probably the best title run we've seen since CM Punk in 2012, is it worth all the casualties that has come along with it? Because I think guys like Seth Rollins, Bobby Lashley, you can make the case Drew McIntyre as well, that over the last 10 months or so really have not had a whole lot to do, because both championships have been held hostage, specifically on Monday Night Raw. And we could talk about Monday Night Raw as a whole as being a casualty. I think the biggest problem working against Monday Night Raw right now is that there's no world champion. Like you said, for as much as I like the United States Championship and the importance it feels since Triple H took over, it will never match up to the WWE or the Universal Championship. Same thing with the Intercontinental. I think they've done a brilliant job really propping up the Intercontinental Championship, but I think we would be feeling a lot differently if Gunther was the main champion on Raw or on SmackDown. So I like, when I look back at these 10 months, I'll say, yes, the Roman Reigns run was a success. Yes, I understand why you guys did what you did, but I don't think that it was worth all the casualties that came along with it. Where are you at with, looking back 10 months ago, what's happened over the last 10 months of them pretty much sacrificing so much just to make Roman a double champion?
Yeah, you talk about putting all your eggs in one basket. I wouldn't say it is the most lopsided, awful decision they've ever made. I mean, so let me just first off and say that. I'm not saying you said that, but I'm just saying that I don't think that it's oh my God, this has been the worst decision ever. They have certainly made worse decisions. Creatively, I think I understand why they did this. I understand the thought process of making him the sole guy. He is the guy. There is no other equal. I get that. I understand the thought process. I just don't think that they thought this through. Again, this all happened under Vince McMahon's watch, where it was everything about Roman all the time, every day. And I think I understand why Vince did it, but I don't think he thought it through past WrestleMania, which you've seen so many times where he gets to Mania and then he's, the Monday Night Raw after WrestleMania last year was one of the most boring shows of the year. I remember I was so disappointed. It did not feel like it should have. It kind of felt he just got to Mania and then took a deep breath and then he's like, oh crap, we have a Monday Night Raw tonight. And that is just something that it felt really, really off. But I don't think he thought this totally all the way through, where he felt maybe Roman would appear more. I don't know what, or he just felt, well, he's going to be there less. So that'll make him feel more special. And while that's true, you have two shows for him to appear on, in which one of them he appears every 3 months and the other one every 3 weeks. So it has done damage to the effect of, certainly not having a world champion on one brand does really screw other guys out of main event opportunities. That's a big problem. If I was on that brand, I'd be angry. I mean, it's an unfair scenario. But do I think it's all the collateral damage that's happened? Do I think it's worth it? No, I don't. And we haven't seen the whole storyline through yet. We haven't seen the whole thing play out yet. But like, how big of a payoff can this really be? And I mean, there's nothing that they could do in my mind in the complete universe of possibilities that would make it all worth it. Even if The Rock wins the belt, okay, great, he's there for like 2 months and gone, or at the very most. But more than likely, he's there to just lose to Roman. Great, we get the main event we wanted, but he's going to lose. And okay, what's next? Okay, you look to SummerSlam, because guess what? The 1,000 days happens at the end of May. You don't think they're going to want to make a big deal out of that through June and talk about it through, by that time you're in SummerSlam season, and then the next possibility he loses is at SummerSlam. I'm actually insanely looking at SummerSlam as the next real possibility he could drop the belt, because they're just they're too fantasized. They're too enticed by that 1,000 days. I'm telling you that they're not going to break it. And so I really believe that its short answer is no. I don't think it's been worth it, but it hasn't been the worst decision in the world.
Yeah, I'm pretty much with you there. I think that as a whole, yeah, it hasn't been as bad as I thought, because I think that it was going really bad right around the summertime, and then the Sami Zayn involvement really just breathed new life into it. So kudos to them for recognizing that, and kudos to Triple H for really making it feel like a fresh storyline. On the other hand, I don't like that they've put Roman Reigns so far ahead of everyone else. I've never been a big proponent of that in wrestling, because I always equate it back to Stone Cold Steve Austin. He was always the main guy in the Attitude Era, right? But did it always not feel that The Rock, and maybe to a slightly lesser extent Taker and Triple H, were right on his level, but just beneath him, and that they always posed formidable threats to dethrone Austin as the top guy? And you can make the case that in 2000 and 2001, The Rock did dethrone him as the top guy. Obviously a very subjective conversation, but you can make that case. With Roman Reigns, it's felt like they've sacrificed so many potential guys as, people that could be presented that are on the same level as him. I think they did that with Drew McIntyre. I think Drew McIntyre was a guy that if you had asked me 2 years ago, you can make the case that he was maybe slightly ahead of Roman Reigns when he was being booked as the top babyface on Raw. Seth Rollins, I would make the case, is the most over guy right now aside from Sami Zayn. And he hasn't held a world championship in 3 years. Bobby Lashley, I thought that during the pandemic era, they made a lot of good ground with pushing him as a top formidable world champion. And he held that world title on 2 separate occasions. And now I'm just feeling that every match that we get to, and you've said this several times, every match we get to with Roman Reigns, there's never really been a time, maybe aside from Drew at Clash at the Castle, I think that's the only time where I've said, damn, he could really lose the world title. And you know how we always talk about manufactured runs, or manufacturing days to his reign? He hasn't defended the championship since Crown Jewel. That's over 2 months ago now. So you've just tacked on another 2.5 months to his reign by the time we get to the Royal Rumble. And that, I think, is the biggest thing, that even though that they've made that storyline more palatable and better with Sami Zayn, that they just continually artificially tack on X amount of days between championship defenses.
We've been, my God, talking about that for so long and I agree that the Clash at the Castle was the first time I was excited. I was like, okay, this could be real, for the first time in 2+ years. Okay, we got something here. And even afterwards, reports came out that they did heavily consider it, as we've gone over, splitting the belts. Drew gets one and brings it to Raw, and all that. And so they clearly felt the same way we did. They were really pushing Clash at the Castle. And now it's, as we go towards WrestleMania, even at WrestleMania, I will say this: if it's not The Rock facing Roman, I think there's a better chance of him dropping the belt. If Cody Rhodes faces Roman at WrestleMania, I think there's a much better chance of Roman dropping the belt. I still don't think it'll happen, but at least there's something to talk about for him to for Cody to win the championship. As much as you and I don't like it, the reality is there's a much better chance of Cody does. And honestly, as I watch Raw and SmackDown over the last month, really since the end of the year where they did the review, 2022 year in review on Raw, where Cody announced he's coming back. He didn't say when, but he alluded to it. Ever since then, they've run video packages on every single show about his comeback, his injury, and his interviews. And like they're doing like a to be continued for next week of like now he's training to come back. And they're doing this kind of like redemption story with Cody, and they're laying it on thick. And that tells me that they're not just going to bring him back to just, have a grudge match with Seth or bring him back to, compete for the U.S. title or anything like that. Like, I mean, they've also reiterated many times of his mission, which was to win the belt his dad didn't, and for his dad. So as much as I don't want Cody in the main event of WrestleMania, he's a great worker. I understand the appeal of Cody. But my point of all that, not is that I don't like Cody as a babyface, although I don't. It's just that he is, to me, the most likely guy to put against Roman to win the belt at WrestleMania. That's my question to you, I guess, is if you're going to put anybody against Roman that is the most probable to drop the belt to that person, who do you think that would be?
Like drop both titles?
Yeah, like say it's unified. Say it is a true unified belt drop.
I would have to say Cody Rhodes, just because of how far that they've pushed this with him about wanting to win that championship that his father never won. There's one thing, and maybe I'm reading too much into this, but I've realized his verbiage is specifically the WWE championship. I don't know if that's just him talking in classic terms, but I don't think he's ever said the undisputed unified championship. So that's the only thing that makes me realize, is he literally going to win one title? So if that's the case, I don't know why, but it's not going to be The Rock, obviously, but I'm kind of starting to think that if anyone is going to dethrone him for both, it's going to be Sami Zayn. And it wasn't up until maybe a week or two ago that I started thinking this. It's just that I think that they realize, and it's Triple H here, is that you probably have a guy who's more over than Cody Rhodes was. And I don't know if they want to sacrifice that. Almost kind of does it not feel kind of Daniel Bryan-esque from 2014 what's happening with Sami Zayn right now?
Oh, no doubt about it. With the organic connection with the fans, he's been here so long, great worker. Oh yeah, and he's got kind of the hair that mimicked Daniel Bryan too.
Yeah. So I'm convinced that Cody Rhodes is walking out of WrestleMania with the WWE Championship, and he is going to be the face of Monday Night Raw. I am 100% invested in that. But as far as dethroning Roman Reigns and ending his entire run as Universal Champion and or defeating him for both championships, I have to say Sami Zayn right now, because I think that they realize what they have. I'm not saying that's at WrestleMania. Maybe it's only in the summer at SummerSlam, and they drag this out all the way for another 7-8 months. But if you had to, again, put a gun to my head right now, that's what my guess would be.
I don't, again, there's that is totally sound to me. They have invested a lot of time in Sami Zayn. They know he's a proven commodity right now. Cody Rhodes, yeah, he got a great reaction upon his return. Fans seem to be connected with him. He's got a good promo, all that stuff. He kind of, I get that. But right now, people have organically connected with Sami. And the organic connection to me is stronger of a connection with fans than a kind of, oh, cool, you're back. Let's, I'm excited to see you. That doesn't last too long. I think that wears off much faster than the organic love they have for someone that they have seen grow up from NXT, graduate to the main roster, have great match after great match, and then terrible booking for years and being underutilized, and now stumbling accidentally into this brilliant role that he has assumed in the bloodline. That there's something there, I think, that's stronger with the fans than Cody Rhodes. I mean, if you put Cody Rhodes versus Sami Zayn 1-on-1, which wouldn't happen, wouldn't make sense, I think the fans would cheer for Sami Zayn. I really do, because there's that connection, long-term connection. They, that whole kind of experience. They've gone through step by step with him. He's been a heel forever. Now he's not, not on paper he's not, but so I would absolutely sign up for that. But I also would sign up for, if they want in the meantime, because The Rock's coming back, you got to put The Rock, even as great as Sami Zayn is, The Rock Roman, if you're going to do it, got to do it now or it's never going to happen. I truly believe that this year. So if you're doing Rock Roman this year, Rock's going to lose, and you have Cody Rhodes face maybe Seth Rollins on the Raw side of things. Somehow they strip Roman of the belt to have that happen, and Cody Rhodes walks out as champion. And you also, at the same time, you kill two birds with one stone, because you finish that program that Seth and Cody had when Cody left, that whole injury angle. So you kill that and end that program, as well as crown Cody Rhodes champion, and you get Rock Roman on the other end, with Roman continuing his streak. The last thing I'll say is, for the where does Sami Zayn fit in? Again, I think he and Kevin could face the Usos for the tag belts and end their streak while Roman retains. So I think that Kevin and Sami, the chemistry of them together, the fans would be all about that as well. I mean, and then eventually have Sami, as you just said, have him beat Roman at SummerSlam after the 1,000 days is finally come and gone.
Yeah, it's all. The one thing I'll say is that it's really cool to see how many options they have at their disposal right now. Like, how many good, viable options they have to dethrone Roman Reigns right now. And I think what I would say to further that is that it almost feels like they have to take advantage of one of them, don't they?
Yeah, they do. And you just said they have so many options. That's a good problem to have, but it's also a dangerous problem to have, because no matter whatever path they choose for this, I think that there's going to be an inevitable kind of 2020, vision here, where we look back and go, yeah, but what if they did this or that? There's not going to be a perfect choice here, because they have so many. It's almost a frustrating problem to have, where in years past it's kind of like, okay, we kind of know which way they're going to go. It's very clear. This is where they kind of have to go. This year, with so many people and so many variables, it's almost analysis of paralysis, where you just like, I don't know, like I'm kind of like nervous to choose this, because what if we had done this? Literally, like mathematically, if I was to put a number on it, probably like 10 to 15 different options for the way WrestleMania main event could play out, and who could be involved, and how the championships are defended, and is The Rock there, all these things, and that's a good and also frustrating problem to have as you get into now the real meat of the season in 2 weeks.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think that the next 2 months is going to just be a great era of wrestling, but as we close it out here, do you have any underlying fears about Vince McMahon getting more involved?
Oh man, that's okay. I'll be very concise, because that could go another hour and a half.
Yeah, a whole other show.
God. So do I have fears? Okay, let me this will be my paragraph summary of my concern with Vince, or what I actually think is happening now that I have dug into it a little more. Okay, what I think is happening is that Vince isn't here to oversee a sale. Given the fact that we know who Vince is as a fan, from a distance anyway, we kind of understand his personality. Other stars have commented on who he is. It's kind of what you see on screen. I think that he's here to get back everything he lost. I think Vince wants to write the last chapter in his book. He doesn't want it have it written for him. So I think he is on his own personal redemption story. I don't think he's here to just sell off what he has tried to get back and, take credit for, whatever amount of money they sell it for. I don't think that's the case, because to Vince, money is not a problem right now. Like, why would he come back just to say, oh, see, I sold it for the most amount of money? No, to me, it's a lot of ego and pride that's happening right now, where he wants to get back everything that he lost and then some. That means he forced himself onto the board. He's the majority shareholder. He has the right to. And then what he's going to do is, I think, try to get back the head of creative. I think he's going to get back everything he lost. And for better or worse, I don't think Paul Levesque's going anywhere. I think he'll maybe stay on as like the co-head of creative or something like that. But I think Vince is on a personal redemption story to get back what he lost. That's just who I think Vince McMahon is, rather than just saying, I sold it and then walk away.
Yeah, I think that's it's lingering. I thought we were past this, but now you have like this real life thing going on in the background. But no, yeah, not to dive too deep into it, but I'm with you. It is really starting to make my wheels turn about like what we could see behind the scenes between now and WrestleMania.
So much. And like we talked last week, guys, this is a buckle up, strap in, long trip. It's going to be a marathon of a story once we get to the conclusion, which I think is months away. So yeah, lots of speculation, lots of Saudi Arabia talk, all that, but I'm trying to go on just what I know, and right now it's not sold. But all right, yeah, cool. Thank you so much for coming on, and before you leave, let everyone know your last retro that you did that was dropped 2 days ago. I'm losing track.
Yeah, I dropped it on Saturday, a day late, because I'm a lazy bastard. I'm just kidding. No, yeah, I covered WrestleMania 17. Obviously, you and I have talked about it. I'm sure a lot of people have talked about it and considered it the best WrestleMania of all time, but I think it's the first time I've ever really broken it down match by match, and it was pretty cool to kind of go through that WrestleMania again, and even some cool undercard matches, like Kane versus Big Show versus Raven for the Hardcore Championship, arguably the funniest match I've ever watched. But no, I would thoroughly suggest everyone to check it out because, as I just mentioned, it is widely considered as the best pay-per-view that WWE ever put on.
It still stands to this day. My God, 22 years later, whatever it is. It's absolutely amazing that show, and of course capped off with Stone Cold versus The Rock and Stone Cold heel turn, and yeah, amazing. Really recommend you check out the podcast and the pay-per-view itself, no doubt about it. So. Cool. All right. Well, thank you, Anthony, for popping on today. We will be back next week as we get into Rumble Week and probably more news on WWE's backstage shenanigans. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, man. Looking forward to it.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.